I know I just got done making a video where I was giving a whole bunch of crap to elemental well mods, but I got a build for you here that isn't so bad. Heads up everybody, my name is SentinelGray and welcome to the channel. All the gameplay that you see here in the background, this is me using this exact build that I'm telling you about. So if you want to know how it works, just keep on watching. But I really love this thing. I really do. It just really disappoints me because I can't use it to its fullest potential because of a few things that Destiny has. There's almost always going to be two other people with me, so I often have to fight for kills, especially if I'm doing any sort of bounty grinding or, killing or whatever. And the other thing is, the only time where I'm going to see the enemy density and difficulty to make this build really shine is Gambit, which is why the vast majority of the gameplay that you're watching is in a private Gambit match where I can really show off what it can do. The long and short of this is that if you want to use this build for everyday use, 100% go for it. But if you really want this thing to shine, take it into Gambit, become a Reaper, clear out whole entire waves just by yourself. It's awesome. Also, if you find this build as badass as I do, please be sure to like and comment on the video, as well as subscribe if you want to see more of the builds that I do or the videos that I do. I'm saying this isn't just a joke, it actually helps us YouTubers out with how many people see our videos. So doing any of that to not only my videos, but other YouTubers as well, helps us out a lot. If you've watched an older video of mine, you'll understand the core of this build, which is turning the Shadebinder Warlock into a tanky close quarters crowd controller. I know it's a mouthful, but if you use this build to its fullest, there'll rarely be a time where you'll die whenever you're in close quarters with almost anything. But I'm sure you want to know what you're going to need for the build. I know, get on with it. So let's start with weapons. Aegir's Scepter is going to be key in making frozen or slow targets. The addition to that is that you could either use the Shadebinder super to shatter all those frozen targets, or use Aegir's Catalyst to channel your super energy into the gun, making it melt down those big boys a whole hell of a lot easier when you need to. Next thing is a short-range energy weapon with either Wellspring or Demolitionist. For myself personally, I have this Scostic variable, I forget how it's called, with Surplus and Wellspring that works absolute wonders for me. While I do suggest a submachine gun for this build, you could probably get away with using a 720 RPM auto rifle or a sidearm of any sort as well. For the Shadebinder subclass, you'll want the aspects of Glacial Harvest and Frost Pulse. Glacial Harvest will spawn stasis shards around frozen targets, frozen or slow targets, and the higher tier the target, the more shards are created. And Frost Pulse will freeze any nearby targets whenever you cast your Rift class ability. Really easy. For your stasis fragments though, you'll want a Whisper of Refractions. Defeating slowed or frozen targets grants class ability energy. Whispers of Torment, you gain grenade energy each time you take damage from enemies. Whisper of Shards, shattering a stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate, and shattering multiple increases the duration of this effect. And finally, Whisper of Chains. While you are near frozen targets or stasis crystals, you take reduced damage. As for the particulars on this subclass, you'll want your Healing Rift and a Glacier Grenade to help with this. For the exotic that you'll want to run is the underappreciated Vesper of Radius. What this will do is, after you lay down your Rift class ability, this exotic sends out an Arc Pulse that damages anybody nearby. In this particular build, this Arc Pulse happens after the Frost Pulse aspect. So you'll lay down your Rift, freeze your enemies with Frost Pulse, and then shatter them with the Arc Pulse from Vesper. Finally, let's talk about the mods you'll want, and then I'll tell you how this all works. We're going to be using some of the new Stasis mods that came with this season, so a good bit of this build should be easily attained for those of you who came back to Destiny recently. Working my way down on my own equipment, Charged Up will allow you to have a max of 3 stacks of Charged with Light. Grenade Kickstart grants you grenade energy whenever you fully expend your grenade energy. Elemental Shards will count stasis shards as elemental wells. Elemental Charge will grant you with 2 stacks of Charged with Light when you pick up an elemental well that matches your subclass type. Orbs of Restoration will grant a small amount of energy to your abilities with the least amount of energy when you pick up an Orb of Power. Well of Restoration will grant you additional energy for your ability with the lowest amount of energy whenever you pick up a Stasis Elemental Well. Perpetuation reduces your class ability cooldown when you use your class ability, and Protective Light will grant you a huge damage resistance buff whenever your shields are destroyed for a length of time determined by the amount of stacks of Charged with Light that you have or are consumed by the mod. Now that you have everything that you need, let me explain on how this is going to work. While you're using this build, you're going to want to use your Rift and your Glacier Grenade as often as possible. The Glacier Grenade is going to not only freeze enemies that are trapped in the wall, but it will also give you a damage resistance while you're near it because of Whisper of Chains. And it will also give you reduced grenade cooldown when you break a section of the wall due to Whisper of Shards, alongside the Grenade Kickstart mod, giving you immediate energy back once you fully use your grenade energy. As for your Rift, you'll be freezing and shattering nearby enemies with the Frost Pulse / Vesper combo. Also, while using this combo, the Perpetuation mod will reduce your class ability cooldown, and shattering those frozen enemies will give you class ability energy back based on the number of targets shattered because of Whisper of Refractions. And all while this happens, you'll be making stasis shards from every enemy you slow or freeze because of Glacial Harvest. Now, whenever you pick up those stasis shards, some of them will be treated as elemental wells because of the elemental shards mod that you have on. The unfortunate part is that both the Glacial Harvest and elemental shards have a cooldown timer on them. But you should be freezing enough enemies that you'll have a number of stasis shards around you that once the cooldowns are done, they can be activated again. Now, because you had a stasis shard act as a stasis well, that means you get energy to all of your abilities, with bonus energy going to the ability with the lowest amount of energy due to the Well of Restoration mod, as well as giving you 2 stacks of Charge with Light due to Elemental Charge. These stacks of Charge with Light can max up to 3 because of the Charged Up mod, which means whenever you find yourself in a pinch, the Protective Light mod kicks in and will give you a damage resistance buff that lasts for as many stacks of Charge with Light that you had. For every stack of Charged with Light Protective Light consumes, it adds 5 seconds to your damage resistance timer. So at a max of 3 stacks of Charge with Light, that means you have a 15-second damage resistance buff that stacks with your damage resistance from Whisper of Chains whenever you're near your Glacier Grenade, Stasis Crystals, or Frozen Combatants. Aegir's Scepter will help you freeze enemies that are outside your range so that you can close in on them and actually use this build to its fullest. Once you're in that frozen group, you can just go to town by using the whole entire build as you have been. Aegir's is also pretty nice for having Shards of Refraction activating, helping you gain your class ability back faster. Not only that, but you can use Aegir's, like I said before, as a major and boss melter if you have its catalyst. As long as you stick to using the core mechanics of this build, there will barely ever be a time where you're going to need to be rezzed. The amount of tanking and crowd control power this build has might be pretty unrivaled in the entire game, but only if you use it how you're supposed to. Remember to fight inside your well and near either stasis crystals or frozen enemies. If you're outside the range of either of those things, you're going to get wrecked, which is why Aegir's is so key to this build. Can literally just make a path of frozen enemies for you to follow to keep your damage resistance up while getting that class ability energy back from shattering everything in your path. If you've actually been watching the video instead of just listening, then you'd see exactly how powerful this build can be and exactly how much damage you can tank. It's a little ridiculous with what you can do, especially since it's a Warlock. I mean, come on now. But that's going to be it for me for this video, guys. I hope this build helps you out, whether it be in Gambit or in your normal everyday grind. I hope it helps you. I will see you all next time. Remember to keep your heads up and be kind to each other. Bye now.